It's really nice to have that kind of support and different perspectives.
In different perspectives, exactly.
Yeah. So outside of everything you've shared, today we're in Colombo, Sri Lanka, speaking with female millennial entrepreneur Rayhana. We're very much looking forward to hearing how you got started on your entrepreneurial path. So where did it start?
First of all, I'm really excited to be on the show, and let me go through. Okay, so I started in 2006. So that is when I was 19 years old. I finished up my high school, and I wanted to, sort of start working somewhere. So I applied for a sales job at this company. And they took me in. And I remember, split among all the sales team, and they asked us, "Oh, you need to go and sell encyclopedias." And they gave us all like a ton of encyclopedias, and you need to sell all of these, and you'll get like an income, and you'll have a commission on it. And I was like, "Oh, that sounds exciting." And that was my first job. So the first day I went around with my team trying to sell the encyclopedias, and I remember being chased out of like every institute that we went to for trespassing and bothering them, and homes kicked us out. No one opened the gates, and I was so frustrated. And we were a team of 5, and I remember being the only person who was so frustrated, and we didn't sell any of the books. And I remember going back to that office, and I said, "You know what? I can't do this. This is embarrassing. No one's buying books, and I'm quitting." And I quit. But while I walked out the door, it gave me so much of experience of sort of realizing how the rest of the team stayed back to sell those books. And that sort of helped me realize, what? It can be frustrating. You have bad days, but if you really put in that effort, as a team, you can make it work. So that was, I think, the first turning point in me to realize, you need to have a passion, you need to be hardworking. That sort of led me into getting into different types of jobs, starting off different types of business. I thought I wanted to become a tailor, so I went into a sewing class, trying to learn to sew. I quit in a day. I went into a cookery class, thinking I'm going to be a baker. I remember quitting it in a day. So I used to be quite a bit of a quitter who would join all the classes and quit in a day. But then through the process of that, I learned, what? I'm trying to figure out what I want. And I remember my mom being so patient, thinking, "Oh my God, my daughter's going to, do something great. She's going to get into, some professional course." And then just to make her happy, I started doing SEMA, which is an accounting course in Sri Lanka. It's a chartered institute of accounting management. And I remember going into classes, and I just didn't. I was there for 3 months, and past 3 months, I used to, cut all my classes. I would just not go because I was, bored with math and accounts, and I dropped off. And I remember going back to my mom and telling her, "You know what, I can't even do this." But you know what, she didn't discourage me. She told me, "Okay, fine, so accounting is not for you. What do you want to do?" And I was thinking, "You know what, I love fashion. I just love getting dressed up. I love doing makeup. I loved the whole thing about fashion." I was thinking maybe designing. And I remember, trying to create a sketchbook of clothes and inspirations from the catwalk and magazines. And, I remember going to all the old second-hand bookshops and like buying all the old Cosmopolitans and Glamour, which is about 2-3 years backdated, and cutting up pictures and creating new lookbooks. And I sent it to one of the clothing stores in Colombo, and they liked what I created, and they took me to design for about 3 months. And that sort of, brought out that spark for fashion and designing. And then I decided, why don't I start a career with it. At that point, I couldn't afford to, have a fashion designing degree. So I was trying to do something on my own, and at that point, my father told me, "You know what? I used to sell gems when I was young. So why don't you get into the gem industry?" And then I spoke to my mom, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds good. So is that something you would like to try?" I said, "Yeah, I would like to try that." And I started meeting up with suppliers, in Sri Lanka, how it works is you have the mines where they mine the gems, and then they sell it to suppliers. And I started meeting them, buying stones, started creating, designing jewelry, and I put it up on my Facebook page. Back back in the day, I didn't even know how that would turn about, but 6 years down the line, that started becoming a business. People wanted to buy custom-made jewelry online, on social media, right? And I started doing pop-up stores because it is able to generate revenue. So I would have like a 1 year pop-up store at this outlet, 6 months at a different outlet, and started building a customer base. And in 2013, actually going back again in 2010, I realized my business needs to grow. It just can't be on social media, right? So I started applying and looking for funding. So I approached banks, I approached private investors, I approached money lenders and all of them, and no one wanted to give me an investment because I had no collateral. I had just the business idea of going online. And in 2012, I came across a competition. It's a startup accelerator competition called the Venture Engine, which is funded by a network of investors in Sri Lanka called the Lanka Angel Network. So I applied for the competition, and 3 months down the line, I became the second runner-up. And I received funding for my online business. So through that, I was able to grow the business, take my business online. So we are Sri Lanka's first online jewelry store. And from one craftsman, I was able to scale up my workshop and hire 5 more, which I think is great, because it's a way for me to give back to a community. I believe that helped me when I wanted to find out what was happening in my life. And the guy who joined me when I started off 7 years ago is still with me. So
wow, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I mean, I have so many questions for you, but just that you've managed to be in a male-dominated industry in Sri Lanka, to be the first to put custom jewelry online. That's phenomenal. I want to give you a high five. Yeah, that's awesome. So good. And your website's beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so I have to jog back and say that was awesome that you quit so many times on things you didn't like, because so many times it's hard for some of us to do something and quit right away because maybe we were taught differently, and maybe it means that something's wrong with us. So I want to ask you about, what were your feelings when you were quitting so often in different things? Was it just normal to you, or
did it normal?
How did you feel?
It was very frustrating because that was like a 2-year process of me trying to do so many things, like trying to find what I was passionate about. So it was very frustrating. I think more of it would have been frustrating for my mother, but I guess she was very supportive. She told me, okay, if it doesn't work out, there's something else. Like, you are meant to be in this world to find out what you love, like what your passion is. So till you find that, you need to keep trying. So she never let me quit. Because she was never a quitter. She would let me quit what I didn't like, but always, encouraged me to move forward.
To find that
thing. So even up to now, she drives me to find the best in everything, So it doesn't come naturally. I guess it comes over time. You need to keep telling yourself and building it up inside,
Yeah. Well, knowing that it's okay to quit is
it's a great thing. It's always okay
lesson.
to quit, because I think you shouldn't waste time, doing something you're not happy with. And always I feel like, once you quit or leave someone or something, I feel like it will take you a year, and then you realize, what you did at that point was right. It was right to quit.
Yeah. That is such a valuable and strong lesson, because not enough people talk about quitting is okay.
Yeah.
And actually, most of the time, it's healthier than just staying.
Yeah, it is very healthy, I think.
Sometimes it can be really detrimental. The second thing I wanted to ask you about was your mother and your father's support. I know that you mentioned that your mother was really supportive, and then your dad gave you the idea of maybe looking into gems. So how did they interplay with your entree onto the world of entrepreneurship?
Okay, so I would say, okay, my dad, I think I got the entrepreneurship from both of them. My mom has pretty much, been with me throughout as a child because my father has always been overseas. So she has been the one, I think, who sort of gave me the independence and the encouragement that I needed to, move ahead through every hurdle. What I got from my dad would be, I guess, the natural thing of, I guess, I don't know, being a dominant. Like, I felt like I had to be dominant in a male driven industry. I had to put my foot down. At one point, I learned, oh, okay, so if my dad, like, what I saw from my dad was like, well, he was overseas because he was driven by his passion for his business. So, okay, he had a reason to be there. So, that's what I found in him. So, if you find a reason to be in this business, you will make it work. So I looked, I didn't look at the negative sides from either one of them. I just absorbed the positive things, what they did right to fix the situations, what they did right to keep things going, and I just used it in my journey.